Experience Karen Hunter in a completely different way. Karen Hunter is awesome. The podcast.
If you like me on SiriusXM Urban View Channel 126, you're going to love me in Karen Hunter is Awesome. Hey, this is Karen Hunter, host of The Karen Hunter Show on SiriusXM's Urban View. Karen Hunter is Awesome is an actual podcast to bring heat and energy and knowledge and power. A 1-2 punch that I don't think you get anyplace else. Tell the truth. Check out the podcast wherever you get your podcast. You will not be disappointed.
Senator, I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address. So you're not. Are you denying? Matt, will you answer my question, ma'am? You were not TG on this group chat.
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat.
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security Council.
Because it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
As the White House previously
Is it classified or non-classified information on this text?
I can confirm.
TG, Tulsi Gabbard. That was Democrat from Virginia, Senator Mark Warner. It's like, okay, are you on this? Well, I'm not going to. Or why aren't you? If it's not classified, if it's open source, we're all here. It's nothing to see here. Why not confirm that this is you? What's the problem? Or perhaps it was classified and you're not supposed to be talking about it. Then it's all crazy. Yeah, this is going to be a problem. We're here. Welcome back to the Karen Hunter Show, by the way. SiriusXM Urban View, where talk empowers and becomes action. Channel 126. Joel Christian Gill is here. We were talking off mic. This level of incompetence, as I said, to our caller, Lisa, like this, there is something we can do. And I think that it could be damn effective. But you were saying some things.
Yeah, I was just talking about this has never heard. This is not like I can only think of one opportunity, one example of this kind of thing happening where you just get your homies involved and they become the most powerful people is when LeBron chose Rich Paul, right? I think they both had a Dallas Cowboy shirt on or something like that's how they connected in an airport. And Rich Paul became one of the most powerful agents, but he learned the game, right? Which is what you were saying, Karen. Like LeBron sent them to school, they learned the game, they learned how to play it, and they became one of the most powerful people. What these people are doing is basically like, if you are a taint sniffer, right, you can be on my team. That's the only qualifications, right? As long as you got a little orange on your nose for your years of using your profile, your platform to basically bolster, this 78-year-old person who thinks a tech genius is somebody who can turn a goddamn computer on, right?
Yo, my son is so smart. I turn the computer off. I come back and it's turned back on. He's such a genius. I'm looking at my TV audience right now. Like but making fun, it didn't work last time. This is why I'm not leaning in. And if it may feel cathartic, may feel cathartic to have all of the names and call all the people. It's not changing anything. To your point, Rich Paul met him in an airport. He was wearing a Warren Moon jersey.
Warren Moon, yeah.
Warren Moon, that means something. That says something. A black boy wearing a Warren Moon jersey in the airport at Cleveland. They exchanged information and they became friends at an Akron Canton airport. And Maverick and Rich Paul, he sent them out to learn the game and master the game. We've been talking about this. I've been having this conversation. I did a podcast with Stephen A. A couple of weeks ago, ran it last week. And we were talking about the game. Yeah. I taught him the game. I know the game. I know the game like the back of my hand. I made a decision, a choice that the game is too horrible for me to be in. Like, it's like, it's the worst game ever. And it really, and on Monday, I'm going to play the episode of my podcast where we talk about how we met. It wasn't in an airport. But I've been having this internal conversation about where we are, being on these radio airwaves. There are a lot of folk, this is somewhat cosplay. People have their little platforms and you bring little guests on and they have their little back and forth, and there's a whole system to it. You have the left and the right and they argue and afterwards they go have a coffee. I used to do that with Boris Epstein. Okay. Just so you understand, I've been in this game, right? But I'm like, no longer should I be playing, but people should know the rules. They should understand the game intimately. They should know all of the ins and outs and how people are so easily manipulated. They should know how to do it. I made a decision not to play it, but everyone should know how this game is played. And there's a game being played right now for them because they have nothing to lose. But what I'm saying is, on the other side, the consequences are great for us, for all of us.
Well, I mean, this is one of the things that I've spent a lot of time talking about, Karen, is this idea about how, in my opinion, it is pop culture that funds the idea of what changes people's minds and moves us in a direction, right? And we can see it from when Jack Johnson defeated Dempsey and beat him out of the ring. We get a few years later, we get Tarzan, or when we have Planet of the Apes right after the civil rights movement, or during the 2016 election, we had like all these movies about holding still and being quiet. We don't talk about the idea that pop culture, when people can see these ideas and they can see how they're working, it starts to change the way they think about it. Like, I think the Dobbs decision was actually influenced by Will and Grace. I think the fact that we got Obama as president was influenced by the fact that one of the most popular television shows in the early 2000s was 24, and the president was Black. And Morgan Freeman played a Black president. So when people can see that. So one of the ways we can do that is continue to tell stories that highlight these kind of ideas. This is where we sneak it in, right? We sneak in the message where you don't actually, you get the pop culture part, and you're like, this is a dope story. But we don't recognize that when we go see Captain America Brave New World, that the president turns into a giant red monster and destroys Washington, D.C., right? That's the subtle messaging that we get, right? When you watch these things.
Yesterday, we had a 3-hour conversation about Wicked, which I hadn't planned on doing it. I was saving that conversation for the 4 o'clock hour. I started talking about it, and it just ignited into the phone lines being completely lit for 3 hours because we weren't having a conversation about Wicked. We were having a conversation about humanity, about us, about this time that we're in, and what these messaging, to your point, the power of messaging, which is why, even I was talking about the word urbane. Urbane is a very beautiful word to describe somebody. Urban has a stigma.
Right.
The root of urbane is, urban. Urban's right there in there, which means that at some point, urban was also something elegant and, cultured. Being urban was something to be proud of until Black people moved in. And they have purposefully used this kind of demonization of Black people in particular, because it's important to hold down the most powerful. And I'm not saying we're the most powerful just because. We're the most powerful because for 400 years, we were beaten into supposed submission and never really submitted. We figured out a way to continue to maintain the core essence of Blackness in the midst of the oppression. They meant to beat it all out of us. Oh, yeah. And yet here I sit every day. So it's scary. It's scary. It's like that movie, Sophie Okonedo, I think that's how you say her name. So Sophie Okonedo, she was in this movie called Skin, South African movie about a white South African couple who gave birth to a Black child. And they had to go to court to declare her white. You've never seen this movie?
I haven't seen this movie.
Skin. It's called Skin. They had to go to court to fight for their child that they gave birth to, who ended up Black, because guess what? Your DNA will this is why all of this Aryan race, master race stuff. And I'm not saying that Black is superior. I'm saying it's source code. It's source code. And when you recognize the source of anything, which is why they don't experiment on the brown rats, there's the white rats in the lab. Let's stop playing. This is what it is. So I'm saying to everyone listening, first of all, know your power. Know your power collectively, because that's really, they can keep us, oh, you're Jamaican, oh, you're African, oh, you're Black people are this, and then Black people calling each other the N-word and lazy and all the derogatory things that they've planted into our spirits through media, through art, right? And we then repeat it, and then they sit back and go, we don't have to do anything. Ha ha, This is winnable when we know who the F we are in this equation.
I mean, and that's our power, right? Like, we drive the culture here. I mean, they can say all they want that the dominant culture is European, but the fashion, the music, the trends, like everything comes from the people who have the most art is created through suffering, right? It's that idea.
Thank you.
And so when we've created all these things, right? And we've created some really great things. And I think that's what we use. That's what we use.
Let's do it.
Experience Karen Hunter in a completely different way. Karen Hunter is awesome. The podcast.
If you like me on SiriusXM Urban View Channel 126, you're going to love me. And Karen Hunter is awesome. Hey, this is Karen Hunter, host of The Karen Hunter Show on SiriusXM's Urban View. Karen Hunter is Awesome is an actual podcast to bring heat and energy and knowledge and power. A 1-2 punch that I don't think you get anyplace else. Tell the truth. Check out the podcast wherever you get your podcast. You will not be disappointed.